Hi guys, it's Dakota. I hope everybody's doing well today. So the title of the video, Self-Love Spell. Well, yes and no. Going to talk a little bit about that. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a spell. All right. So I thought it was pretty, this was something that I already had in, on my list, right? Self-love. Only I called it something else. But self-love spell. For the sake of right now, that's what we're calling it, and that's the title of the video. And but I'm going to talk about it. All right. To me, self-love is sort of this. Uh, to me, first of all, self-love, that expression, self-love, that isn't anything new. I mean, just isn't anything new. It's not like this newfound expression or new thing that we need to find within ourselves. We need to love ourselves. That isn't anything new. And I mean, you just hear it so much, like, oh, self-love, 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 that it just really, truly, like, is wearing itself out. I think it just sounds hokey to me. I don't know. It's just me. It just sounds hokey. However, I understand that the importance of loving yourself. Okay? But I wanted to talk about that because what does that mean? What does that mean, loving yourself? I mean, so I looked up love. Like, what is love? And love is about having feelings, having emotions for someone else, for someone else, whether that is a relationship, a friend, a child, an animal. Um, it's a feeling of, it's this expression of warmth and that you have for someone else. Um, it could be yourself, but typically we it's rare that someone would just say, "Oh, guess what? I love myself." Right? I mean, but we would say it's more common to say, "I love her. I love him. I love them," than to say, "I love me." Right? We do say it. I'm sure, that it does, but I'm just saying it's not as common. It's not as common. So it's not anything. So loving yourself isn't something new, or self-love isn't really anything new. Um, but one of the things that was bothering me about it, so I sat with it, did some thinking about it, because the spell that I'm going to show you is in one of my old notebooks from years ago, before I had any kind of structured training or um, elders teaching, taking courses, etc. All I had was, a handful of books, and whatever the book said, that was law, because that's what I thought at the time. And so I took the spell and I said, "Oh, self-love. Everybody's talking about self-love. Let's do that." But I couldn't just do like self-love, because I'm like, self-love. What is that anyway? What does that mean, self-love? Um, it's so anyway. Love. If you look it up, is about loving someone else. However, woo, however, you can love yourself, and you should rightfully. So here's the thing: we are pretty much, most of us, by nature, we are nurturers, we are caretakers. Even if you don't have a significant, even if you don't have any children, even if you don't have any family, maybe you're a gardener, so you nurture your plants. Um, those types of things. There's things that, so we're just naturally a nurturer. We're caretakers. Um, And we work really hard. I work really hard. I work hard at my store, at my job. I work very hard, and I'm driven. I want my store to be successful. I want to be able to help people. So there's that nurturing aspect. And I'm not much of a, oh, it's okay, it's going to be okay kind of person. But I am empathetic to people. I am sympathetic to people. I do care about people that are struggling. But at the same time, I want people to understand that, and this all has to do with shadow work, I think, in my opinion. Not all has to do with shadow work, but a good part of it has to do with shadow work. Is, you need to, and maybe that's where that love comes in. Maybe that's where that self-love comes in. But for me, it was more about being compassionate to yourself, because we work hard, we play hard, we're driven, we're successful, we have goals, we want to achieve those goals. We're somewhat excessive, right? We can be excessive. um, we want, and I'm looking at my notes, we want to excel in whatever. If you have a job, we want to excel. If it's in your spell work, we want to excel. So we want to excel in what we're doing. And when we do all of that outside of ourselves, then we sort of forget about us, right? We forget about the me. We forget about self-care, me, self-love, me, our happiness, our fulfillments on a personal level. However, as I said, I am a hard worker because I want to be. I am driven to excel because I want to be, because I have goals, and uh, and I want to meet those goals because I want to, not because I have to, not because, ooh, I want to be this or that. No, because that's a goal, and I want to achieve it. I want to achieve it. And the only way to achieve it is to work hard at it, and to stay at it, and to be patient. And therefore, if I just put all of that energy into all of those things, then what about me? So, not, and all of those things are about self-love. That, to me, that's all about love. I love that. I love that. I love that about me. But there's also self-care and being compassionate about yourself. Now, love is about, I looked up love. Love is when you care for, when you have feelings for someone else, or, which could be, a significant other, a child, a friend, family member, your critters, like I said, your plants, so, whatever it is, that's love. And then there's compassion, okay? And compassion is when you have concerns for misfortune, or of pain, of suffering. And to me, compassion falls under that self-care. Not self-love so much, but self-care. And when you are doing those things where we tend to forget about ourselves, our self-care, or our self-love, that is when we get depressed, and we start to just feel, kind of crappy about ourselves, and all of that. And it's because we're constantly doing for others, right? We're always doing for others, and we're not, then there's no time at the end of the day for ourselves. We're too tired. Or maybe you planned to do for yourself, but when you got home, somebody else needed something. Somebody meaning whatever, it was the middle of summer and somebody else was your plants that needed watering, okay? So what I'm saying is we need to have time for ourselves, and we need to feel compassionately about ourselves. When I am tired, like there are nights, there are times when I get home, like by Saturday night, we were busy this week, obviously because we had the Valentine's Day that I didn't know about. And so Saturday night, I mean, I literally, like when I sat in the recliner, I was just like, my body just went, ugh, I just was exhausted because all week it is giving of my energy, giving you my attention. I have class now. I'm teaching my classes. My critters, my home life, that sort of thing. Give, 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 give. And all week I hadn't, you know, hadn't really done any self-care for myself. And but yesterday, which was Sunday, I try to be. This takes a lot of shadow work. This takes some work to be compassionate. I'm compassionate about myself, and I know that in order to be the best person I can be, I need to have compassion for myself. I need to have self-care for myself. I need to be able to say no without guilt, without fear that, oh gosh, I hurt their feelings. No, you didn't. If their feelings got hurt, that's on them. Because I got to take care of me. Because if I'm not here, who's going to take care of you, right? If you're not here, who's going to take care of them? So that is about caring for yourself. So the whole self-love thing to me, it's just a little, it's like this, I don't know, this new modern, thing that's out there. And again, I want to emphasize that yes, we do need to love ourselves. Um, but I think more importantly, we need to have self-compassion. Because where do you fit in that circle? You can love yourself and not have a moment to give yourself. That's not being very compassionate. Because if you were somebody else, okay, just think about this for a minute. If you were somebody else and you came up to you and but you are tired, right? You're just exhausted. You've had it, crazy day at work. Kids are in the background yelling, "Where's dinner? Where's dinner?" The dog got out, whatever it is, right? You're just like, "Whoa, I can't take one more thing." And you had planned on taking a great relaxing meditation Epsom salt bath. Ooh, that sounds good. um, and so let's say you come up to you and say, "Hey, or you go to yourself and you say, hey, oh, by the way, I need this. Can you do this?" And the person, and you say, no, I'm taking care of myself tonight. And the other you gets hurt. Well, that's on the other you, right? That's on the other you. It has nothing to do with you. Because if you weren't there, that other you would have found a way, to take care of whatever it was. So I don't know if that made sense or not. It made sense to me. It's okay to say no without shame, without guilt, without any of those things, or I'm going to hurt their feelings, or, whatever, because you have to take care of yourself. And if we want to use the expression self-love, you have to have enough self-love for yourself that you can also have compassion for yourself. Right? So if you were the person asking, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? And they were exhausted and you didn't care, then you're not being compassionate for that person. But if the person said, yeah, I can do it, and do you not have compassion for that person? You know, so I don't know if that made sense. I don't think it did. It makes sense in my head. But anyway, I'm going to have to delete this whole part. Um, okay. So for me, this is more of a self-compassion spell as opposed to self-love. Because I think that having if you don't have compassion for yourself, if you don't have um, patience and kindness and sympathy and empathy and altruism with yourself, if you don't have those things, then, you know, then self-love is a separate entity of that, or is part of that. The two work kind of together. But I don't think you can have self-love without having these other things, because if you did, then you would be able to say no, because that is having compassion for yourself and empathy for yourself and you know, patience for yourself and all of those things, kindness for yourself. Be kind to yourself. But no, you're ready. You don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. So instead of being kind to yourself, you're exhausted. You're going to go, okay, oh great. So now the person really likes you. Congratulations. You know, you're the best. But then you go home and you feel like crap, because what about you? Now there's no time for you. It's time to go to bed because you got to get up in the morning and start this routine all over again. Compassion, self-compassion. So that's what we're doing. It's a spell on self-compassion, because I think that you need to have compassion before you can really have self-love. I hope that makes sense. All right, so anyway, here we go. Here we go. So what you're going to need is, I'm going to be working with a small jar. It's just a small, I don't know, it says tin on the bottom. It's a jar. Have no idea what was in it. Little jar. Okay. And I'm going to use, oh, let me light, I have a, I'm not going to take it out. I have a, this is a, I'll put it right there so you can see, rose incense, which is not my favorite. I'm not a fan of rose, but I thought self-love, self-compassion, I'm going to use rose because rose is the love herb. So I'm going to get that lit here. And maybe, maybe not. Come on. There we go. And it is, that is Rose by Ancient Elements. We sell it at my store. Plug. Ancient Elements incense sticks. This is Rose. Pretty good, actually. Even though rose is not my favorite, still. All right. I am going to, I have my Florida water here. And the first thing I'm going to do I just want to cleanse my hands, and I like to use the Florida water. All right, I am going to figure out what I'm doing here. Okay, I have, let me pull you down. There we go. That's better. All right, so what I have, I'm using a pink candle, which pink is for love, self-love, but it also is for compassion and I'm trying to see, I wrote all over it. You know, self-love, compassion, kindness, mindfulness. There's some other things on here that I can't see because I did not, haven't oiled it or anything yet. So I have pink. So that's the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my rose cologne, which this is the Murray, and I am bringing, let me get the wick. I am bringing the energy down into the candle because yes, I am going to burn it. So what I'm doing is bringing it into, as the candle burns down, it's bringing that energy down into my intention. And I also wrote this way. So I wrote down into it, and I also wrote this way. So I started up here and I wrote this way. So say I wrote the word love, then I would have put L here, O-V-E. Some people like to write backwards and put E-V-O-L. Whatever you like to do. I did it all different ways, but each way that I did it, I put it this way. And the thing that's coming down this way is actually more like a sigil for me. It was more like a sigil. All right, so you can dress it with anything you want, rose oil, anything that you consider, that you might consider is good for self-compassion. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is, this is a really easy spell. I'm going to take, this is my working candle, just has, it's just a flame. Because I don't really like to light things with a lighter. So this has really no energy other than once I light it, it will have a flame. So I got it lit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, you can see that. I'm just going to let it melt, dropping some oils. I want a good bit, not oil, wax. I want a good bit of wax in there on the bottom, because what I'm going to do is take the pink candle and I'm going to set it in there, and I need it to be set pretty hard. All right, let's see how that works. Just setting the candle in there. Gonna set this over here by my cauldron because I didn't bring my, I gotta be careful, I got stuff in there that's gonna burn. All right. So the candle's in there pretty good. Okay. The next thing I'm going to add is, this is the first, this is a bottle of kombucha. Yeah, I bought it because I liked the bottle. See the design on the bottle? It was a limited edition. I guess it's 25th anniversary, and it's called Sacred Life. And I bought it for the bottle. It's almost like the flowers, I forget what they're called, like the sacred flower tree, sacred geometry. Anyway, this is water from the first dark moon of the year. And what I'm doing is I'm going to add water into, actually, you know what, before I add the water, sorry, I have 4 rose quartz chunks, just rose quartz chunks. Got them at the store. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these rose quartz in my jar. What that does is it kind of helps with that energy of rose quartz is about love, self-love, romantic love, love of the world, love of whatever, right? Love of whatever. So I'm putting that in my jar. So those are in my jar. Okay, now I'm going to take my water and I'm going to pour it in to my jar. About yay. Not all the way to the top. And that is why I needed my candle in there really well. You see that? Okay. Water is a healer. Water is also good for grounding, and it helps soothe. We are 70% water, 80% water, something like that. And so I wanted to use the water to sort of represent me, if this were my spell. I am not doing this for me. This is just to show you, sort of. It is not for me. Anyway, the water is for, I'm just going to use me. The water is for me to represents the person. How's that? That's better. The water represents the person. Since we are 70-80% water, then that represents us being surrounded by love, or encompassing the love and everything that this candle was about, the intentions that I wrote on the candle for self-compassion, mindfulness, unselfishness, altruism. I'm looking at my notes, kindness, all of those things. I tried to write as much as I could on the candle. All right. I like the help of the ancestors, but I'm not using tobacco this time. So I'm using the tobacco water. What I'm going to do is, I've got my little pipette here. I'm going to get some, and I'm going to put 4 drops and I'm going to put 1 on the wick. All right. So I did 4 drops in the water, only because that was 4 stones that I used. So that's like an offering to the ancestors of the stone, to the energies of the stone, and 1 drop of ancestor on the, or tobacco, I'm sorry, 1 drop of tobacco water on the wick itself, because I use tobacco as you know, all the time, almost everything I do for an offering. So, okay, so there's that, and I didn't want to put that I didn't want to use the leaves. All right, so now we're going to get to this part. The first thing that I'm going to use in my water, besides the stones, is I'm going to use, I've got this big giant jar of rose petals, and I'm going to use, I'll kind of crunch them up while I go. I'm just going to sprinkle some rose petals in there. And I'm going clockwise as I sprinkle, clockwise, because remember, I'm trying to bring in. So I'm putting 3, oh boy, don't move. 3, I hit that candle. 3 pinches. That is a bud. It's 3. That was a big bud. 3 pinches of rose petals because, yes, rose is all about love, etc. Then I'm going to use hawthorn leaf, which I love, as you can tell. I love using hawthorn leaf. Hawthorn leaf is both masculine and feminine. So this spell can be this spell can be for anybody can use this. Just because it's a pink candle doesn't mean that it's just feminine. That isn't what it means. And so hawthorn leaf is it represents the masculine and the feminine energy, and it is good for love spells if you're into the love spells. But the thing about hawthorn, what else it does, is it eases us into that moment of emotion, of that difficult emotion, and sort of fills it, I guess, with compassion as opposed with, the not love of self. So this sort of just fills us with all of those things that the candle is all about. Having compassion, having patience with ourselves, not just being hateful and upset and sad and depressed, and just allowing yourself no judgments, that kind of thing. The next thing I'm going to add is nettle. Now, nettle, as you know, nettle has little prickly things on it, so it can be used for protection. But once you clean the pricklies off of the nettle is really good. It sort of brings awareness to these difficult situations. It helps to bring clarity. Why not? Why aren't you compassionate with yourself? Why can't you say no? Besides the love, why can't you have, why do you think you're not deserving of those things? So 3 pinches of nettle. Now, I'm using rosemary, and this is the last thing that I'm using is rosemary. And I'm actually using rosemary as a protection, and I'm not protection, using it for protection. What I'm using it for is protecting against those negative thoughts that might try to escape in. So I'm just layering the top with the rosemary as sort of that, and I'm putting it on top of the herbs as sort of that protection barrier to keep the negative energies about myself, the negative thoughts, the lack of self-love, whatever you want to think. I'm using the rosemary because rosemary, although it's a good protector, it's still a gentle thing, and it's something that you can use in love. But it's also good for, it also helps with depression and moods. So it's a lot of things, it's a lot of things. So it's really good to use in this case. I'm using it on the top. I don't know if you can see that, but the herbs are floating on top of my water. And so that rosemary on the top, that is the barrier that seals that protection in, so that I'm doing this, but no negative energies from outside. If I start having negative thoughts about myself, or I'm not good enough, or oh, I can't say no, or like no time for me kind of thing, that's not going to happen. All right, the last thing I'm going to do before I light it, I have 4 Lemurian quartz little oh gosh, what do they call these? I don't know. They're little points, but they're real slim. I forget what they're called now. What they called them, lasers. That's what they called them, lasers. See if you can see it. I don't know if you can see it. Little lasers, Lemurian quartz. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to grid. It's only a point on one end. So I'm going to grid point in. I want the energy from outside to go in. And again, I am going clockwise. Around my candle. And let me just check my notes, make sure that I have finished everything. Your candle, now I did use pink. Feel free to use any color that you want, that you feel best corresponds with or resonates with you when it comes to compassion. Now this spell is about self-compassion with a touch of love, obviously, obviously. But again, I think that the focus here is compassion. You have to have compassion for yourself. You have to be able to be mindful of your own self, of your needs, of your self-worth before you can love yourself. I think that you can love others, truly I do, without having a love of yourself. I really do. I've seen it. I've seen people not really like themselves very much, and they're like the most compassionate people with others. Turn that around. Have compassion for yourself. All right, let me just double check. So the rose petal, yes, we know is for love, and the rosemary is the final thing. Yeah, okay. So when that's done, now I should say that that's done, I'm going to take my working candle again. This is my working candle. I do not like to light my work from a lighter, so I'm going to use my working candle. I'm going to just take a deep breath in and exhale. I'm going to do this 2 more times, but I'm not going to speak. What I want you to do, if you try this, take those 3 breaths in, and on that breath in, you want to inhale as much of that compassion that you can, and when you exhale, blow that intention out into the universe. And when you're done, you're going to light your candle. It was a little sparky there. That is from the tobacco water. All right. It's grid, pulling that energy in from the universe. Water is representing self, because we are made of 70 to 80% water. So it is representing self. Water is also got wax all over me. Water is also good for grounding. Has to do with emotions and everything. I've got my pink quartz, rose quartz, and my herbs. And then you're just going to sit and meditate on those things. And there you go. So I hope you enjoyed that. I might have to go and edit this a little bit. I know I bloopered a few times. Maybe I'll save the bloopers and put them at the end. um, but I really, really do hope that what you get out of this is understanding, whether they're catchphrases or whether they're new words or new expressions or they're old expressions, what's behind them? What does it really mean? How can you achieve it? And loving yourself and having that compassion, knowing when to say no, knowing that if you want to just sit in the chair and rest and watch stupid movies all day, that's part of the healing. That's part of the self-care. Not so much the healing. Well, it is part of the healing, but that's part of that self-care. Because that's what I did yesterday. I was exhausted, and there were things that I wanted to do and get done, and I thought, those things are not a priority. I'm a priority. I'm a priority. And I took care of me, had compassion for how I felt that day, how I felt yesterday, which was exhausted. um, so yeah, so that's what I did, and so maybe this is for me, and maybe it's not. But I'm gonna let it burn out, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys. Give yourself a hug. Bye.